So like I said, we're here today with Opportunity Sheffield, and just a reminder for everybody that we are recording these sessions. They will be shared with you after the event and hosted on our local offer website. Um, there is chat function available, so if you've got any questions for Cyddi and Glenn as they go through their presentation, please just add them to the chat, and there will be time for Q&A afterwards. Obviously, this event is recorded, so please don't share anything sensitive about a young person in the chat, because obviously we want to take care of everybody. And today we're going to be finishing just a little bit earlier, around 1:15. I am going to share some links in the chat as well to some resources that I would be grateful for you to share with any young people or families that you're working with. And that is our post-16 guide for young people, which has got the offer at level 2 and below in post-16. So I will be sharing a link in the chat to that shortly. You can also access all of the previous event recordings on the local offer website. So please do go back and have a look at those and share them far and wide with anyone who you feel like they might be useful for. I will also share the link where you can book on to the remaining sessions that we currently have scheduled. So our next one will be with the shared live service. We then have a session with the DWP in May, and then in July we're finishing this academic year with Autism Plus. So I'll make sure all of those links are posted so that you can access them. Right, I'm going to stop with my spiel and hand over to Cyddi and Glenn to tell us all about Opportunity Sheffield. I'm sure lots of people will have questions for you about what your offer is. And yeah, so over to you.
Thank you. I'm just getting my slides up on the screen. So it says it's loading. I've just clicked.
All good, we can see that.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining today. My name is Cyddi. So I am a job coach on the Connect to Work programme, which might be a little bit confusing because it used to be called the Supported Employment Programme, but we've kind of merged the two now. So we are part of the wider team of Opportunity Sheffield, which is the Employment and Skills Service of Sheffield City Council. We are funded by DWP, and our main goal is to help autistic people and all those with a learning disability to enter sustainable employment. So just a little bit about me before we start, my background. So I started off as a primary school teacher, which didn't last in that long, but I was still passionate about working in education and working with young people. So I went on to work in special educational needs. I worked in the SEND assessment and review service, where I was assessing for EHCPs. So I've got a good understanding of the SEND world working there. I've also worked for the Prince's Trust, now the King's Trust, with young people on their outreach programme, and eventually found my way to Opportunity Sheffield, where I've done 3 different roles, which I've kind of worked as a key worker, and I've also worked a lot with employers as well. So that brought me to this role as a job coach. I'm just going to pass it over to Glenn to just introduce himself as well.
Okay, thank you, Cyddi. Can everyone hear me okay? Yep, lovely. So my name's Glenn. I'm also a job coach with Connect to Work. I started on the 1st of December. I've been supporting people with learning disabilities since 1995, so that's a 30-year career. I won't take you through all of it. So more recently, I worked for Project Search in the West Midlands, setting up supported internship programmes. That was for about 18 months. And prior to that, I spent 8 years working in Calderdale, so I was based in Halifax. And I used to offer lots of information, advice and guidance to families and young people with special educational needs and disabilities. I'm very passionate about supporting people into employment because I see the massive difference it can make to people's lives. That's why I've come to work here in Sheffield. I actually live near Home Firth and commuting, obviously. So I'm from Lascelles, from wine country, but I did spend 3 years here living in Sheffield as a student back in the 90s. So like Sheffield, I want to come back and work here because it's a very friendly city. Thank you.
Glenn. So next slide is you, Glenn.
Yes, thanks, Silly. So we do have some eligibility criteria for Connect to Work. So ordinarily, people will be aged over 18 to be referred to Connect to Work. Sometimes people might be 17 if they are NEET, so not in education, employment or training, and need to have a recognised learning disability or difficulty and or be neurodiverse, although people don't have to have an official diagnosis. Employment status is where people mustn't be already in training or education. They might be in employment and want our support to sort of maintain that employment, but they're generally not in a job, and we can offer support for up to 12 months. And people do need to be living within Sheffield or have a Sheffield postcode, which is obviously a big area, so stretches from Stocksbridge in the north right down to the Chesterfield border in the south. I think that's enough. Thank you.
Yep, so here's just a little overview of what we do. We are going to explain it a little bit more in detail. So a big part of what we do is personalised support. So firstly, we meet with our potential participant to help identify what their strengths and skills are, and we meet with them one-to-one. So it's one-to-one, it's quite, like I said, quite personalised, and the whole aim of that one-to-one is to help them overcome any barriers that they've got to employment, especially with young people. When they come to us, they often don't have any work experience or a lot of work experience, or may not have a CV, or may not have ever sat an interview. So a lot of that one-to-one support will be tailored to them and what they need. Having said that, we do get a range of ages and a range of people that come to us. We also have people that have had a long career in a specific area, but may have fallen out of work for whatever reason. So the support we offer them will be slightly different, but the main goal is the same. It's to help them overcome those barriers and enter sustainable employment. The second part is for us to work with employers. So as much as we work with the participant, we also work with the employers. So a big part of it is to identify inclusive employers. Between us, we have quite a bank of employers now that we know are more inclusive than others. And we also try and find them the right job. So it's not just about finding any job. We really want to identify their skills and match them to the right job for them. So we would also help them in their job search toolkit, which means that we show them how to apply for jobs. We support them in writing personal statements, using the STAR method and things like that, which they may not be aware of before. And like we mentioned earlier, interview techniques as well. So we might do mock interviews with them to get them used to that sort of environment. And then the final part of what we do is on the job support. So I think with a lot of services, other services, they do tend to kind of work with the person until they move into work, but we continue that support once they get into work as well. So we will go into work with people. So if someone's got into a job and they are needing support in work, we can go in as little or as often as they'd like. And we work with the participant and the employer to discuss things like reasonable adjustments, any specific needs the person has, and just to offer guidance as well to the employer if they're not quite sure about a certain disability or need. So it is that wraparound support that we do offer with the full process. Just some figures there. So since we launched in 2022, we've supported a total of 232 people, and we've had 92 people into employment. So I think those figures show that we've made a big impact, and we will continue making that big impact as we go through the Connect to Work programme. That was just a whistle-stop tour. Glenn's going to explain it more in detail on the next slide.
So, Sithy, have we got some labels missing?
Oh yeah, sorry. So it should, I don't know how you do it on this. Oh, there we go.
Oh, there we go. Cool. So, well, there we go. The labels are popping up. Connect to Work isn't just happening in Sheffield, it's happening all around the country, and we follow a process. So this is something that's been developed by the British Association of Supported Employment, who are known as BASE, and we do this with each person that we work with. So in terms of stage one, engaging with somebody, we will ordinarily receive a referral that will come through triage, and we'll have an allocations meeting, and we'll look at who is going to work with somebody, and then we reach out to people, and that might be through a phone call or an email if we've got something on their notes that says how they prefer to be contacted. So some people prefer a text, an email, or some people prefer a phone call. We'll introduce ourselves as their allocated job coach and that we would like to meet up with them. We'll do some eligibility checks to make sure that they're going to be okay for the program and things have been explained to them and they're clear of what it involves and how we're going to work with them. And then we'd arrange an initial meeting, and we try and do that somewhere that's going to be comfortable for that person. So we'll talk about where they're able to travel to, and generally meet somewhere in private because we might be asking some questions about personal things that you wouldn't ordinarily talk about in public. And then we'll arrange to meet them and hopefully put them at ease and give some more explanation of what Connect to Work is, and a little bit about themselves. And myself and Sithy and our colleagues, I think, are fab, and we're pretty skilled in helping people sort of relax and feel okay. So we've got those sort of soft skills, but it's something that we talk about when we have case conferences and make sure that we're doing right by people who are coming towards Connect to Work. As we get to know people more, we'll start to do something called a vocational profile, which might sound slightly intimidating, but it's where we would get to know people more. So we'll find out a little bit about the background, about who they live with and their hobbies and interests and what's inspiring them to look for work, the kind of things that they might have done in the past, the kind of things that they're really interested in. And we'll also do some skills analysis around what people can do and what they might need some support with, so we can really tailor our support to them. And that vocational profiling takes, I would say, probably at least 3 or 4 meetings with people. So after our initial assessment, we then spend a good few hours with people doing some vocational profiling. Alongside that, we might also be doing some work on someone's CV. So they might send us their CV and we'll look at that and help them get that ready. And alongside vocational profiling, we'll probably also do some initial job searching on sites such as findajob.gov.uk and Indeed, and we might even put in some applications at that early stage, depending on where people are at with what they need help with. In terms of engaging employers, obviously following on from vocational profiling, we then have a really good idea of what kind of job someone might be looking for. That might be part-time, full-time, it might be in retail, it might be in warehousing or logistics. Obviously there's loads of jobs out there and everyone's different. So it's then part of Connect to Work and being a job coach is we then can reach out to employers. So last week on Friday, I spent some time in the Hillsborough area, walking around, going into various businesses and dropping off my details, picking up details from people, asking if they're recruiting, or just finding out about businesses, what they do, and when they might need staff. So just sort of forming those relationships with businesses in the local area where I'm working, so I can build up an idea of who's recruiting and what kind of staff they need. I also then am looking to find matches for jobs that people I'm supporting want. So if someone's wanting a retail role, I might then go into several shops in an area and see if they're recruiting, and just to build up that working relationship. And we find through this work that by doing matching people with roles that are there, you have a much better success rate. And that sounds, it sounds like common sense, but it does actually work. So if you spend time getting to know somebody about their skills and abilities and their aspirations, and you then look to find them a job that they really want, rather than one that they're just thinking that they have to apply for, with a better chance of them being successful because they're really interested. And if you get that friendly company and you've done that work with them, you can get a really good match and we find that that has much better success rate of lasting longer time. And then the in-work support and career development, not only are we passionate about helping people get jobs, but we want people to be able to kick on in their career as well. So we know that a lot of people who we work with might be looking for an entry-level job because they've not had a job before, and that might be in the NHS or it might be at B&Q. And once they get that job, we also want to work with them to look at onboarding, passing probation, and then looking at developing a career. So we work with several people who have actually moved on. I think Siddy's got a case study about that a bit later, and we can see how people sort of really grow into the role and then go on to get promoted and take on more responsibility and get different jobs and expand that career. So thank you.
Just wanted to add one thing in there, if that's all right, Glenn. It's
Of course it is.
just when we're doing that vocational profiling with someone, we also want to be quite realistic. Sometimes we do get participants who might want to do a job, but they don't have the relevant skills for that job. So we will always be quite honest with them and support them in getting the experience that they need before applying for certain jobs. I've had it before where someone's wanted to work in like with animals, but they didn't really have any experience. And what we're seeing a lot now with the job market is that it's very competitive. So if we are applying for jobs through job sites, then they do need to have some sort of experience. So we will support them to look for work trials or work placements where they can get some experience before approaching the application forms, just to avoid any sort of rejection based on the fact that they don't have that work experience. So I would just say that is also a part of what we do. Okay, so some of you might have heard of this, you may not have heard of this. There is something called Disability Confident Scheme, which is a government scheme, and the aim is to encourage employers to think differently about disability and to take action to improve how they recruit people, how they retain people, and how they develop disabled people in their workforce. So an employer can sign up to this scheme. There are 3 different levels to the Disability Confidence Scheme, 1, 2, and 3. So that kind of reflects the different, the amount of knowledge, I guess, they have regarding recruiting people with a disability. So the Sheffield City Council are at level 2, and I know that they're working towards becoming level 3. The NHS are level 3 at the moment. They're very inclusive and are trying to change their recruitment practices to take on a high number of people with a disability. When we share this round, there is a link to the website that explains it a bit more in detail. But the idea is to challenge attitudes of businesses and have that increasing understanding. It also draws from the widest pool of talent, and it ensures that they can recruit high quality staff who are skilled, loyal and hardworking. And on the next page, I'll just explain a little bit more about how we go about finding these disability confident employers. So certain job sites have the badge. So a business might have the badge to say that they are disability confident. I think I've gone a bit far. And we kind of actively look for businesses that have that badge. But on the flip side, some businesses don't have the disability confident badge, but we know that they are inclusive. So it's about kind of knowledge that we already have, but also digging a little bit deeper to see whether they are actually, sticking to those what's the word? Yes, they're kind of sticking to what they said they were going to do when they signed up for the Disability Confident scheme. My screen's gotten really small all of a sudden. Oh. 1 second. How to make it bigger now? Don't know. So we will approach those businesses. So there is a website called, I think Glenn mentioned it earlier, the DWP Find a Job. So that is a government website. So they do put on whether a business is disability confident. There is also a published website where they list all the employers that have signed up to the scheme. You can filter it down by the town, the postcode, and the sector. That's pretty helpful. And there are some other websites as well that offer support for people who are looking for inclusive employers. So Scope has a long list of job sites that are designed for disabled job seekers. And there's also Ambitious About Autism, who we've been working with recently, who provide opportunities specifically for those with a disability and with autism. Okay, so going on to the next one. So as we mentioned earlier, a big part of what we do obviously is working with the person, with the job seeker, to receive individual support, to develop their skills and confidence, but equally working with the employer is also as important. So when we work with the employer, they kind of receive guidance from us on how to create an inclusive environment, which may look like adapting roles to meet that person's needs. We look at reasonable adjustments. We look at things like access to work, which I'll explain a little bit more in detail later on. But the support is tailored to each individual's requirement and continues for as long as needed. It's very much about that co-production. So we are working both with the participant and the employer so that the person can be as successful as possible in their career and go into the right career, and to make sure that they're happy in that career and that they get a chance to develop if that is something that they're looking to do. So we always make sure that we offer guidance, but we will also try and get guidance from the employer of what they're looking for, and make sure that it's a long-term commitment, because you do see a lot of jobs that are 0-hour contracts or temporary, and we just want to make sure that they are being as fair as possible when we are doing that job search and doing that employer engagement. So this one's for you, Glenn.
Yeah, thank you, Siddhi. So a good example of what Siddhi was just talking about is this morning I've been meeting with someone who I've been supporting since early February, and they've got a cleaning job. So I met with them to get an update. They're just waiting to get the DBS check and a few health checks through and things. And I reached out to their new employer this morning. So I've phoned them before, but we haven't been able to have a proper conversation until yesterday. And then this morning I reached out on email, and I've had a really nice email back just saying thank you for telling us who you are. So I sort of explained that I was this person's job coach and that I wanted to work collaboratively with the business to make sure that the person could onboard and learn the new skills. And they've come back with a really positive email saying, great to hear from you. Good to hear about Connect to Work. We want to work with you to help make this a positive experience for the person. And because I'm relatively new in post, sort of in December, I'm just starting to do that now with employers. So it's always good when you get those kind of emails back. So just really working collaboratively with the employer and the person to make sure that everybody's sort of settled and happy. So in terms of wider employer engagement across Sheffield, we have several staff within Opportunity Sheffield called business development officers who also reach out to friendly companies in the area. And we put on jobs fairs, and we get people from all over Sheffield businesses to come and meet with people who we're helping to find jobs. And we are able to sort of help promote the people who we're supporting to these businesses, because we know from experience that the people we support can make absolutely fantastic employees, can be incredibly loyal and hardworking, very highly motivated, and will stay with companies for a long time and do an absolutely fantastic job. We know that employers sometimes might find it hard to get the head round in terms of employing someone who might be autistic or have a learning disability. We're able to talk to them about case studies, raise their awareness of the barriers that some people face, but also celebrate the skills that people have. So we know that some people we work with really enjoy doing repetitive, systematic tasks, and we know some people who are excellent at that, and companies sometimes find it hard to find people who want to do those kind of tasks. So we can match people up there and help that company thrive with a really good member of staff. So we know that there's an untapped talent pool of people who are autistic or with learning disabilities in Sheffield, because it's the same in most towns and cities. People have often been overlooked for jobs or found it hard to navigate recruitment processes. So we will also sometimes talk to businesses about how they can make their recruitment process more friendly. And that might be just something as simple as offering to give people the questions that are going to be asked at interview a couple of days before the interview, so they can do some proper preparation. So little things like that can really go a long way. And also companies might think about offering somebody a working interview. So someone might do a couple of trial shifts rather than actually having to have a sit down formal interview. Have you anything to add to that, Siddhi? I think I've covered most of it.
No, I think you've covered it. I think that goes on nicely to the next slide.
Thank you. Yeah. So this is an example our colleague Craig pulled together from some of the companies that he's been working with. So you can see some strong brand names there, such as Morrison's and the NHS and Great Bear Logistics. Plus also some small and medium-sized enterprises, so smaller companies, right down to local shops. So there's a good spread, and we're always looking for new businesses to work with. We want to help businesses find staff who are really good, and we know some people who are really wanting to get those jobs. So it's a win for the business, and it's really good for the people who we're supporting.
Thank you, Glenn. So this is a little bit more detail about how we support the employer. So we would always start small. So if someone's about to start a job, we would look at what they can do to change their recruitment processes. Just like Glenn mentioned, we can ask for the interview questions in advance, which actually most employers will do now. They'll send them at least 24 hours before, or any other request a room without artificial lighting. Or we can ask if they can offer a working interview, a work trial rather than a sit-down one-to-one interview, depending on the person's needs. So it's small changes that can be implemented, and that goes the same for when someone starts a job as well. We will always seek guidance if we're not sure. So there are more specialised services that we go to, like Autism Plus, that specialise in supporting people with a disability. So the Autism website, Autism Plus website, is brilliant. They've got a long list of resources for people moving into employment, and there's lots of guides. And if we're not sure, we will approach them, or we'll look on there for some help. And then we would offer that support to the business. So like we mentioned earlier, we offer in-work support for the individual, but that can also be for the employer. So I'm going to share a little bit about one of my participants who I've been working with. There was one, I've got two examples, but I'll share a more recent one. So there's a lady who has been with our team for quite a while. She was on our old funded project, so we could work with people longer then. So she's kind of been on the program for around 3 years. It's been quite challenging because she's got quite high needs. Well, but she was really motivated to work and really wanted to kind of do anything really. She was open to trying different things. So we got her lots of work trials and work experience so she could build up her skills and confidence. And then recently she said that she wants to give cleaning a go. So we got her some work experience in the charity shop doing some cleaning. And then we saw a job that was been advertised in the Sheffield City Council for a kind of a part-time cleaner for the council buildings. So because she had that recent experience, we were able to do the application together. She then got an interview for that. And before this, I did explain to the manager that she does have some communication difficulties, and is it possible for the interview to be a work trial rather than a sit-down interview? The manager said this is not something we've done before, but she was quite open to discussing it more. So I spoke to her on the phone about it, and she kind of I was able to explain a little bit more about the person, and then she agreed. So we did go in for a chat with her, but she did say it was kind of an informal chat just so she can meet the participant. And then we discussed doing a work trial. So she did come in for an hour, and she kind of showed her the different tasks involved, and she did those, and I was there to support. And yeah, they were quite happy with the work that she did that day. So they were able to offer her a contract. With her, we wanted to start very small and build it up gradually. So they were able to offer her just 1 hour a week, which was huge for her because after such a long time, she was becoming really frustrated at the fact that she wasn't moving into employment. And we wanted to, yeah, make sure that it was going to be sustainable. So I was able to offer lots of guidance. So the manager was very open to changes, but she wasn't sure what the changes could be. Um, so with this participant, I said that she would need visuals, like a visual task list of what she needs to do. She'll need a job coach support with her during her shifts, especially in the first couple of months, but then maybe this could be reduced and maybe eventually she could do it independently, but we weren't quite sure at this point because she'd never worked before. So she's been doing an hour a week. She's been there 3 weeks now, and I've been going in to support her, and I've kind of taken photos of her doing each task, and I've created a visual checklist for her, and she's picking it up really well. And they've now asked if she can increase her hours. So it's I think they really appreciated that additional support that we were able to offer. And then just going on number 3 on that slide, that something called access to work, which some of you might have heard of. It's something above and beyond reasonable adjustments. There's something additional that the employer can't provide. So for this participant in particular, I felt like she would probably need a support with her at all times during work. Even though, like I said, we're not quite sure at this point, she may be okay eventually, but we applied for access to work together. The employer was very supportive of this, and we're just waiting on a response for this. Because our support, like Glenn mentioned earlier, can't be kind of forever, we will have to look at other options so that she can get that continued support to make sure she's successful. So I'm really hoping that that's agreed for her, and that if she, increases her hours with support with her, then she could definitely flourish and progress in her career. So that kind of shows a real life example of how that supporting the employer works pretty well. And that takes us to another example we've got, which is a recent case study. So this is more of an employer case study rather than a client case study. So we've been working with a company called Links Academy, and they were looking for participants who they can recruit to become what they call a co-trainer for the Oliver McGowan programme. So it's delivering training to NHS staff, and the person must have either autism or a learning disability to be able to take part in this training. So we built a connection with them, and they were able to employ 20 of our participants, which has been absolutely incredible. Some participants who would have never even considered doing this sort of job where they have to get up and speak in front of an audience, but they've absolutely flourished. And this video just explains better than I can how well they've done. So I'm just going to try and play this. Hopefully it works. Okay, is there any sound? There's no sound.
I think there is a setting for you to share your sound.
Is there?
Yeah, so I'm trying to think where it is. Sorry, Sithy.
No, it's okay. If it doesn't work like this, I could share it because I've got it downloaded to my computer. I could show it like that.
I think it's a setting on the yeah, it's just if I can find it.
On mic.
It might be.
Audio settings. Sorry, everyone.
I think it's when you share it, like when
Yeah.
is there, at the top of your screen,
Change settings.
There's like a little thing that pops up because you're sharing your screen.
Yeah.
If you click on that.
Yeah, include sound. Yeah. Okay, let's try that again. Oh, no, there should be sound and it's not. What I'll do is I'll pull it up on the screen because it is worth watching. Yeah, I've got it downloaded on my. 1 second. There's always IT issues, isn't there?
I know. Well, last week I had loads, so don't worry. It's
I did
always
try it
worse.
as well. Tried it
Yeah.
before and it worked fine. Right, I've got it on here. So let me just stop sharing this and then I'll share my other screen. Okay, can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
There we
Can you hear it?
go.
Yeah.
Links has got 3 sister companies. So we have Links Employment Services, Links Support Services, and the Links Training Academy.
The Oliver McGowan Mandatory Training aims to ensure that health and social care workers have the right skills and knowledge to provide safe, compassionate and informed care to autistic people and people with a learning disability.
In order to roll out the programme, you have to train it as a trio. So there is a learning disability expert with lived experience and an autism expert with lived experience and a facilitator. First job for me was to find people that wanted to work with the Academy to deliver the Oliver McGowan programme, and that's how we got working with Opportunity Sheffield. They've helped us to find training venues and they've sat in on a lot of the sessions to give extra support to the delegates when they were training up to become trainers.
We support participants who either have autism or a learning disability to move into sustainable employment, and that's done through a 5-stage model. A lot of the participants that come to us have different barriers. Some of them have been out of work for a long time. Some of them may not know how to apply for jobs and how to update a CV and how to prepare for interviews. So my job is to prepare them and make sure that they know how to approach the recruitment process, and also ensuring that employers are being inclusive, that they are adapting their recruitment processes to meet the needs of people with a disability.
Many of the participants have gone on to work. Our plan with the Academy is to offer that long-term opportunity to become a trainer and train in other subjects as well, which they're already excited about and asking about, and we're already training them up to do so.
Right, I'll just try and share this again.
Thanks, Sydney.
So like Libby mentioned in that video, so you were trained as a trio, so you have the autism expert, the learning disability expert and the facilitator. So some of those participants have gone on to do the facilitator training as well. So they've already managed to progress and kind of take on that role, which is brilliant. And like she mentioned, some of them have gone on to deliver training for other providers as well as Links. Which has been brilliant, and some of them have set up as self-employed as freelancers so they can deliver that training for different companies. So yeah, I just thought that was a nice one to share. So next one is Glenn. Oh, there we go.
Thank you. So I'm aware we're on a pretty tight time schedule, aren't we? We've got 3 minutes left. So this is just to give you an overview of who's working in Sheffield. So you can see Sidhi on the top left, and she's put me next to her, which is very kind. Thank you. So the staff on the left-hand side, Sidhi, Gail, Craig and Erica have been working in Sheffield for several years. And then I'm one of the new job coaches along with Kes, Joao, Rosie, Jeanette and Nicola. So there's a team of 10 of us. And we work all across the city. We each work with about 15 to 20 individuals. So there's a lot of work going on in Sheffield supporting people who are autistic or with a learning disability or difficulty to get into work. And then finally, here are our contact details. So we do have a triage service when people ring. to take some details, and then someone can get in contact with you. But please do get in touch if you've got any questions. I realise that there'll be some questions in the chat, and we've only got a couple of minutes left. So if you haven't had a chance to do that, then please get in touch via phone or email, and we'll do our best to help you.
That's great. Thank you both so much. I mean, it's such a great offer, and I think it's one that we really need to bring to the schools, and make sure that like our education providers at post 16 like really understand what's available from you, because I just think it's such a fabulous offer that you have. It really leads on really well from supported internships too, which is great. And obviously there's quite a similar model that happens in supported internships. So thank you so much. We do have a few minutes, so I'm going to go through some of the questions, and then we'll finish up just before 20 past, if that's all right. But thank you so much for the presentation. It was really good and really, really interesting. And I would imagine very reassuring as well to some of the families that we've got here today. So Gillian says, my son is autistic and just going into year 11 in September, so a bit young for this. But what advice would you give in terms of steps to take when he is getting ready to leave college, stroke an apprenticeship, etc., that gets him in contact with Connect to Work?
So we do go into colleges to kind of speak to the students and the teachers there as students are leaving college. So we do go in to kind of bridge that gap and explain how they can get involved.
Right.
So that can be when they're 17, kind of turning 18. And we can take their contact details and contact them as soon as they are 18. But also the colleges will have our details as well. So if we don't manage to get in, they can pass that on.
Fabs, thank you. And that's really like reassuring to know, that you're going into those providers and talking to the students. That's great. Thanks, Siddhi. There was Amara had asked about what if the adult really struggles with mental health, doesn't get out much? Do you help on the mental health side, as well as helping to get a job? Not all adults are mentally doing well after 18 plus. I suppose you go. I guess I'm just, what I'm thinking in my mind is that mental health element, although maybe not explicit in the work that you do, is always going, well, not always, but very often going to be a factor with the people that you're working with.
Yeah, we see this a lot with people that come to us. So we do have a service that we have access to within Opportunity Sheffield called Green Tree Therapy. And any participant on any of our programs can access that. And they get, I think it's up to 8 sessions of therapy with a therapist. And then if they need anything that's additional, we can kind of support them to refer themselves to talking therapies or any other services. But we've got that in-house kind of support that we can use.
Yeah, brilliant. That's really good that you've got that. You can refer to that service. That's really, really good to hear, Siddhi. Thank you. And just, do you go to Peaks College to Bloom? Have you been out to visit them? Just Tamara's asking.
We have in the past. I don't think we have recently. We have been to the kind of special colleges and schools more recently. So we've been to Sheaf Training. I think we've been to Landmarks and a couple of the others. And we've been to Sheffield College.
Yeah.
But we have in the past, but yeah, we can, if there's a request for it, that can be sent through to us and we can look at how we can accommodate that.
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely, maybe we can have a quick conversation and just cross-reference and make sure that, you're getting into all of the providers, that I'm working with and things like that. And there's also, potentially opportunities for you to come to some meetings that I'm hosting that all of the providers are at as well, to share what you're doing. So we can definitely talk about that. And then just, I think probably what would be really helpful just to finish off is just a reminder of that referral criteria that you shared at the beginning, and how to refer into the programme, which I believe is through the email address that's on the screen. But yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, I'm happy to go through that.
Thank you.
So people must have a recognised learning disability or be neurodiverse, and meet the 2010 Equality Act definition of disability, but people don't have to have a formal diagnosis. People ordinarily who come to Connect to Work are aged over 18, but sometimes people who are 17 who are NEET, so not in education, employment or training, can join the programme, but we have to just double check those details. People can't be in part-time or full-time education when they come to Connect to Work. Are you okay?
Sorry, I think it was frozen there for a second.
All right. So people can't be in full-time or part-time education to come on to Connect to Work, and they actually must want to find a job within 12 months. So it's for people who are motivated to find work, and they must have a Sheffield postcode.
Fab. Great.
Okay?
Yeah, that's great.
Sorry.
Thank you. I think it's always just, I think especially for families, that have come through the SEND system, they've been on the, the EHCP journey. It can feel like, it's just quite different, isn't it? Because it is actually just more open, and it's, there isn't as many of those barriers as you might have experienced trying to access certain bits of the education. So Siddhi, Glenn, thank you so much. Thanks for bearing with whilst there's inevitably technical problems, which are always worse when you have an audience. So thank you so much. I'm going to share in the chat now just a few links that I mentioned at the beginning, just how to access the different resources, the previous event recordings, how to book the future sessions that we've got planned. And I'm also sharing a link to the feedback form. Please in fact, I'm going to share it twice so it doesn't get lost in that other message full of links. Please, can everybody give us your feedback for today? It's really important that we have that feedback because it allows us to show that it's helpful, it's useful, and gives us a mandate to have more of these sessions. So please do share your feedback. And within there, please share as well any other organisations that you would like us to bring in and have this conversation with. We know this information is not as well understood across the system as we'd like. So just please do share any ideas that you've got, anyone you'd like to come, and any feedback on today's session as well. So thank you all very much. And like I said, all of those links are there. Siddhi, Glenn, thanks a million. It's been really good, really interesting, really informative. Also brilliant to hear about the journey that you both have been on. And that are now in these roles, and the kind of commitment that you've both had through your careers to helping people find work and, progress in their lives. Like, I think that's always really reassuring, I think, to hear. So thank you so much. And I do have to go now, so I'm going to duck off. But thanks a million. If there's any other questions we didn't get to in the chat, I will make sure they get to Siddhi and Glenn, and we'll get you an answer over email. But thanks everybody, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.